So we will initiate our third and final panel on the new role of airports. We are today, we've seen that in a context of increased sobriety and pressure on decarbonizing the aviation, so that push the airport to move to augmented one and also to think about new activities. We will talk about intermodality, energy hub, and even beyond that. It's a call also for a collaborative approach, and it's interesting in this panel we'll have several members of the Olga project, which is a great illustration of an holistic green airport for tomorrow. For this discussion, then I will cite to Edward Arkwright, welcome Maxime Mahieu, Armando Brunini, Duncan Walker, Antonio Pellecchia et Rosario Mazza. So thanks for your presence here. We'll start this panel with you, Edward Arkwright. We saw in the previous panel how you are engaged in the development and the support of alternative fuels. What is your view on the role of airport, how it could change, which type of new activities, and what are the challenges you see and how you can finance this transformation?
So the future of an airport today is energy and railway. Sorry for aviation. And my best friend is now train. And so we know that if we want to face the challenge that we are discussing since the beginning of this morning, we have to welcome intermodality in our airport much more than it is. Of course, around the world, you all have some examples of airport well connected by rail, airport with intermodality proposal, but it is not the case. It is not the case in Europe in all the airports, and for ADP we have some room to improvement. And so we are fully engaged in this intermodality strategy, and the main challenge for us is to finance this intermodality strategy. Clearly, aviation is in Europe a 100% self-financed business. Railway is a 50 to 60% state finance or public finance business. So we have two business models which are completely different, and we know that we have to work together in order to find solutions. To welcome this intermodality, to make it a reality because our customer want it and because it is a great strength for our business. One day, we will have some new laws, new regulation forbidding the use of airplanes 2 hours and a half, 3 hours, 4 hours, I don't know what. So we know that this decarbonization strategy requires a lot of investment in intermodality. I will explain to you all the examples and all what we have done in Paris, but just to begin this panel, the question is how can we finance it? We can finance this, but new revenues, of course. And of course, the revenues that all our airports have in terms of parks and use of roads will be under pressure. Because if I have to reduce the part of the passengers coming at the airport by cars and to replace them by train, I have to create revenue from these passengers arriving by train. So I can do it by retail, I can do it by a lot of ideas. But intermodality is a new way to connect airport to the city, and with Duncan. We will open tomorrow the first vertiport fully integrated in an aeronautical environment in Pontoise, just close to there, because we are convinced that this VTOL and new urban mobility that we call advanced air mobility will create a new opportunity of businesses that will allow us to make this intermodality strategy a reality.
So as you mentioned, Edouard Arkwright, tomorrow you will inaugurate the first vertiport in Paris with Duncan Walker. You are founder and CEO of Skyports. You're also collaborating with Milan to have vertiport ready for the Winter Olympic Games. So can you elaborate, tell us more about the benefits of eVTOL and what will be the time horizon for the deployment?
Yeah, of course. I'm lucky we're talking about the funding of this industry. To have a number of our shareholders here, Groupe ADP were one of our very first shareholders. Ardian joined the capital table very recently. And what we do is provide ground infrastructure for the eVTOL market. Now, not everyone might be familiar with this new market. eVTOL stands for electrical vertical takeoff and landing vehicles. So effectively the electrification of helicopters. Now, helicopters are noisy, they're somewhat dangerous, they're very expensive, they spend a lot of time in maintenance. So why would you try and replace something like that with a form of transport that is electric? Well, electric brings a lot of benefits. It brings, of course, the environmental benefit, but with multiple points of redundancy, they're very materially safer. And really importantly for the airports here and all of the other transportation sectors, this should be a high volume industry that is accessible to everybody in this room, not the super rich that can afford to fly around in helicopters, but everyone traveling to and from an airport. Now, of course, for that to be useful, you've got to have a point of origin and a point of departure, destination. And airports, if you look at how people move around any city in the world, airports are key drivers of traffic in and out. And connectivity to those airports isn't always great. So what do? We build ground infrastructure at airports with our partners here, but also in city centres so people can move to the places they need to be, typically the most congested most congested places in those cities, so city centre, downtown to those airports. Like Edouard said, tomorrow we're launching the first one in Europe. This feels like a journey we've been on for a very long time because it's dependent upon vehicle certification, which is a challenge. But tomorrow, first vertiport in Europe, we will be doing live flights tomorrow in Paris, which is super exciting. So this is an industry that has been talked about for a while. It is an assistant. It's not going to solve everybody's problems in one go, but it's an assistant to the decarbonisation of that intermodal challenge of... Still there? Yeah. That challenge of moving people to and from the city centres. So, by 2024, you will see commercial operations in Paris, super exciting, likely to be the first in Europe. Hopefully by 2026, we will be seeing that also in northern Italy with some of the Milan airports. And that will feed, the catalyst for that is the Olympics here in Paris, and then the Winter Olympics in Milan and northern Italy. That's all right. The grand finale with a new one. So it's close, it's happening. You will see live flights in Paris tomorrow. You're welcome to come if you're available. And I'll let Armando talk a little bit more about that. But this is a form of helping that downtown to airport traffic and regional transportation as battery energy density increases.
Thank you. So you mentioned you are collaborating with Milan Airport. Armando Brunini, you are CEO of SEA, heading the Milan Airport. Could you explain what eVTOL represents in terms of benefits for you, better accessibility in your revenue? And more generally, you have a strong strategy on renewable. Can you explain what is your view on the electrification as a key lever of decarbonization?
Sure. We see clear benefits of enabling urban mobility in the Milan area. One was said already by Duncan, so it's helping mobility to and from the airports become more sustainable. That is quite clear. I don't think I need to expand on that. We also see it as a new business, a potential new business, so a new source of revenues. And we all know how much we need new sources of revenues right now in this historical phase for airports. And then finally, these last 2-3 years have been really tough for airports. We've had COVID, which hit us hard, and now the war and the energy bill surging. And so it's been a lot about cost cutting. So this project, it's like a flagship project looking into the future, which is also good for morale. It's good for our people, especially for the younger component of our staff, to see something futuristic and positive. We're very serious about it. We've been studying now 2 years. We did our homework. We did a full-fledged demand analysis, so looking 2 decades forward in Milan and Greater Milan area. And that's not easy because it's not easy to estimate the demand of something which is not there, of a market which still doesn't exist. We also worked on a master plan, positioning where we believe vertiports should be positioned geographically, the best positions in terms of demand, in terms of intermodality with other modes of transport. So ultimately, we believe that end game, we will see 15 plus vertiports between our airports, the city of Milan, and the greater region of Lombardy. More concretely, we have a business plan. We are going to create a NewCo, a joint venture company, to exploit this business opportunity. It will happen in the next few months. Hopefully, Skyports will be an important partner. They have a board meeting. We have a board meeting next month.
You're on the board.
Yeah. Representing Ardian, by the way. And I must say, this happened thanks to Ardian and Aéroport de Paris. So it's about collaboration. This all sparkled thanks to your connections. And so Ardian will be an important partner in this as well, indirectly, and with Skyports and ourselves. And the idea is to be cautious in the beginning because we don't know how long it will take for this new industry to ramp up. And so by 2026, we are aiming at developing 4 vertiports, 2 in our airports and 2 downtown. And in the beginning, basically, the service will be commuting between, especially Malpensa, which is far from the city, and the city center. This is the idea. Then, of course, if demand responds, we're in a good position to scale up quickly and also to look beyond Milan, maybe leveraging on airport assets that our shareholders have in other parts of Italy. I don't know if I have time to reply to the...
We will come back to we'll come back to the intermodality and the other initiatives that you have. Many thanks, Armando. Maxime Mahieu, you are CEO of Smart Airport System, and you are also part of the Olga project with ADP and Milan Airport. So very nice to have all of you on board. Can you explain what your initiative on zero-grade emission help airline to both be efficient operationally and reduce their emission? And what are the main challenges to scale up such solution?
Yes, good morning. So first, maybe a quick clarification of what we mean when we talk about zero ground emissions. Basically, if we look at the total emissions generated in an airport, 30% of the emissions are coming from the turbine used wrongly on the ground. So when we talk about the turbine, first the APU, auxiliary power unit at the gate, and then the main engines during the taxi. So 30% of the total airport emissions are coming from these 2 elements. And this is what we tackle with our company and with our partners as part of Olga, as you mentioned. So we address these 2 issues, and we address them today. So I see a lot of solutions, obviously, for decarbonizing the aviation for, in the mid and long term. But those solutions are available today. And so we can address a big portion of the emissions today. That's what we do in Paris. We do that worldwide, in Latin America, in the US. So, of course, we have challenges. The APU has been used worldwide since the aviation exists. And in fact, it's quite easy to tackle. Okay, it's a combination of factors that you need. It's not only a machine. It's not only a specific service. It's a combination of factors, but it's possible to tackle this today. Taxiing, we all queued, a very long time, especially in New York, when, in fact, you can address this today with the taxi bot, and this is what we are demonstrating with our partners, with ADP as part of the Olga project next year, with Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, also in Bangalore airports. We have taxi bot, running today and making sure that we don't use the main engines during the taxi. So again, these solutions are available, and they respond also to operational efficiency gains at airports. I will just name one example with the taxi bot. When you push back for your aircraft, basically, after the pushback, you need to wait normally 3 to 4 minutes, the warm-up sequence of the main engines. With the taxi bot, you tackle that because immediately after the pushback, the control is transferred to the pilot, and the pilot is allowed to tow immediately and directly the aircraft. So this also helps to remove congestion at the gates, at the airports, and that's helping airports in another way than only removing emissions. So again, the last thing I want to say is that I hear a lot of solutions, and hydrogen obviously is the way to go, SAF, they are all costing a lot of money. But tackling the turbine on the ground today is free. In fact, it's not even free, it has a negative cost because we generate savings and we bring revenues. So there is nothing not to do it. I mean, it's a combination of factors, so it's very important that airports, they understand that. It's not only buying an air conditioning machine that will not make you stop the APU. That's for sure. Because a lot of airports, they did that. You see a lot of air conditioners and they are not used. So that's not sufficient. We know what it needs. Addressing the taxiing, also, the taxi bot is today the only certified solution. Okay, it's available. It's not so complex. Sometimes I'm told by a lot of airports, deploying a taxi bot is kind of complicated. But when I hear all the other solutions here and how complex they are, I can tell you that the taxi bot is most likely the most easiest solution to deploy at an airport. So again, we are here to support the aviation, and the taxi bot is being conceived a long time ago. It is now in operation, and we are accelerating the movement. So we need your support from the decision makers at airports, at airline, with Air France, KLM, working with us, tackling those issues. So I think for us, our time is not in 10 years. Our time is between now and in the next 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Maxime. So we have here both operational efficiency, reduction of emission for negative cost. And to continue on electrification, Antonio Pellecchia, you are Managing Director of ASG Superconductors. So can you explain how superconductivity can be a key technology for electric aviation? What are the gains in terms of efficiency, and what are your clients today?
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you very much for having me. Outstanding panel. So let me spend one word about superconductivity. Probably many of you are not familiar with it. First of all, you do two things with superconductivity. You do either magnets or you convey energy. Why this? Because superconductors are materials that can conduct currents without losses, without ohmic resistance. So at this point, what you want to do, it's either a very powerful magnet. You know, every one of you has probably been in an MRI scanner where you are inches away from superconducting materials. Or the ITER project here in France, in Marseille, or you can convey energy. As long as you keep superconductors cold, you can keep any amount of current flowing through it without any losses. So you can have a gigawatt conveyance line, probably the size of this mic. How does this apply possibly to airports and decarbonization? Well, I see two ranges of applications. Airside, you can power up having DC current streamlined at 100,000 amps probably to very fast charge to the ground support equipment or conveyor belts or to the same aircraft if you want, guaranteeing very fast recharging rates. Landside, you can power up any of the facilities inside the terminals. And this with a conductor which is very compact, so no civil works. A conductor trench is usually the size of probably 60 centimeters in width. You can remove the power source from the airport because the conductor line can go without any civil works for kilometers. Actually, one single superconducting cable can substitute like 15 or 20 copper standard conductors. And plus, you can have a number of applications that do benefit from the avoidance of losses. For example, if you are kilometers away with the power generation, you won't get to the airport like 70% of the energy you buy, but you will get the 100% of it. So I see a number of very bright application in the future for this. We have business cases for ports. Ships will be powered in the future by hydrogen. But Pierre-Etienne and Karim before were right. you're not going to do much without an infrastructure. Actually, we can couple the superconducting material and the cryogenics of it with liquid hydrogen. In this way, you can convey in a mixed up way current and hydrogen to whatever load you want to use. So you will have a synergistic use of both materials, and you will reduce the carbon footprint in many, many ways. Consider just of the thousands of tons of copper you will save.
So we have here, we go beyond the aviation sector again with synergy with other application and other sector. I'll come back to you, Armando, on the intermodality. You start to explain what you try to do, notably with Vertiport, but you have a lot of other initiatives to connect Milan Airport to the city. Where are you today in this journey, and what is your vision on the role of airport as intermodal hub?
Yes, well, as Edward was saying, we all have space to improve, and for sure, Milan system has a space to improve in terms of connecting rail to our infrastructure. But luckily, in the next month, two big initiatives will take place. The first one is that on the 26th of November, we will open a new metro line from the city center to Linate. So Linate will be the terminal of this new line. And so it's going to be a big game changer, because Linate is our city airport, and in 10 minutes you will be able to reach the city center. The other initiative is that after many years of lots of work on the authorization process and on financing process, the first stone will be posed for a rail link between Malpensa and the northern rail network of Italy. And this will, when it's finished, it will boost capacity, frequencies, and speed of services with the northern part of Italy and with Switzerland. We have a major component of our passengers come from Lugano and from Switzerland. So two big projects that will help push on the modal shift. We're working on the modal shift like everybody else, and these two projects will certainly give a boost and help us. In terms of the role, I think that we all have the same vision, all airports have the same vision. We're becoming not only infrastructures for flights and for aircraft and for passengers flying, but we are becoming, because of our position and because we interlink all modes of traffic, we are becoming and evolving into platforms of intermodality. And not only, I'll give you a real life example of what could happen where flying is not involved. As I was saying before, the metro station is going to come, and because the municipality believes that it will attract the Milan metro station, the Linate metro station, will attract commuters from over Linate. This means we bought a new parking lot. So we bought land. This land is going to be a new parking lot for commuters. So what we will see in the future is commuters that today are using their car to move into the city and work, and they pollute and they create congestion. Tomorrow they will stop at our parking lots, then we'll take the metro station, commute to Milan, come back in the evening, use our super fast recharging station, which we created for electrical cars with partners from the highway system, and then go back home. So basically their trip to work will be sustainable, and we will be making revenues from parking and from recharging electrical cars, and there will be no flights involved. So we see intermodality going again beyond just aviation.
Edward Arkwright, I don't know if you want to add something with the TGV station at your airport on what Armando mentioned.
Yes, we have exactly the same vision. We are lucky in Paris because the most difficult has been already decided. Today in CDG, you have 10% of the O&D passengers coming by train at the airport. When I say train, it is TGV and a train inside Paris. So everything will be improved. CDG Express, direct train from CDG to Paris, open beginning 2026. Line 17, new metro line, open around 2030. New Roissy-Picardie, which is a new train coming from the north, already decided and opening around 2027. The capacity of the high-speed train will be increased by 50%, and right now we have room to double the number of passengers coming from high-speed train. So all the most difficult in our congested countries and cities which are new railway infrastructures has been already decided in CDG and also in Orly with the opening on the new metro line 14 in June 2024. It will be a metro station inside the airport, and the new 18-1 coming from Paris-Saclay and in 2028 and in 2023, also 2032, yes, in Versailles. So sorry for this long description, but the most difficult has been done. So we have to do the rest, which is to increase the size of the station. CDG2 will be completely renewed and refurbished for the Olympic Games in 2024. And the size of this station will triple in the next 20 years, double in the next 10 years, and triple in the next 20 years. And we have to work with our customers, especially with train operators and, of course, airlines, on how to make the passenger experience as good as possible, as seamless as possible. Air France and SNCF have made a lot of progress, and a digital now ticket, which has been announced by the management of these two companies. And we have to review the timetable, we have to review the regulation, we have to review all the passenger experience, but it is our job. And thanks to that, we will able to move from today, 2/3 of the passengers come by road, which is a nonsense, to 50%, which means a more balanced approach and, of course, more consistent with our common targets.
Thank you. To conclude this panel, I will give you the voice. Rosario Mazza, you are head of Ardian Infrastructure in Italy. As an investor, how do you help your portfolio companies to make this move? We also see more porosity between sector, infrastructure, mobility, energy, even real estate sometimes. So what does it mean in terms of business model for you as an investor? And do you think it increases the resilience of this asset?
Thank you. Good morning. I think it's clear that we are a long-term and active investor in the sectors, and if we want to continue to play this role, we need to have the decarbonization, and we need to scale the challenge of the decarbonization and make it a reality. You ask, how do we do it? I think today we have discussed, and I want to summarize probably 3 concepts which for me are important for looking at the industry going forwards. Is first, ecosystems. Second is scalability. And third is also innovation. I think as airports play a pivotal role in building a strong ecosystem of partners which shares the same vision and the same goal, the same view of the industry. And today, collaboration is not a nice thing to have anymore. It's a necessity if we want to make this happen and if we want to make it at scale. And when we look at the industry, we are not just talking about airport and airlines. Today we had technology providers, manufacturers, we have energy companies, we have ground services, and also you have investors as well that play a role. And it's also important to go beyond aviation. And that's what we have done in Ardian. I think 2 years ago we have established an Ardian sustainability transport working group, which involves 6 of our portfolio companies in the transport industry. Milan is part of the group, but we also have highways operators, we have railway operators, because this is a challenge for the entire industry. And if you want to achieve the mass and the scale, you need to have the collaboration extended beyond the boundaries of the aviation. And the goal of this group is to share best practice in terms of decarbonization, to enhance collaborations, and also to define actionable plans and actually even joint development projects among themselves. Second, I mentioned scalability. I think as Ardian, we see ourselves as a network, and we can help scale developments from a single airport to a network. Duncan and Armando mentioned that before. And it's also an example of the ecosystem. I mean, we got an inbound from ADP about Duncan Ventures. And at the same time, I was discussing with Armando about his vision to transform the airport as an intermodality hub. And we made the connection, and there today we are looking at opening possibly the first vertiport by 2026 in Milan, and also thanks to the network we have in the country, we can expand that venture, not just in Milan, but also across the country, across Italy. And so we share also experience, knowledge, and also we accelerate because you build up on real examples and people that have put effort and resources. Last is innovation. We are in a challenging environment. We had pandemic, now we have energy crisis, and we see the target to decarbonize the industry. We need to innovate business models, and we need to innovate and come up with new ideas that can generate also new sources of revenues, because it cannot be just a cost. If it's a cost, then it won't be profitable, and so won't be worth making an investment. And that's how probably today we figure out that airports are not just, as was mentioned before, a place where people travel. It's actually, today airports are an energy hub. They need to develop into a place where you have SAF. We discussed about hydrogen. We didn't discuss and touch base about renewable energy because it's a big cost for the airports. And so today airports are thinking how to become independent and produce energy themselves, how to develop energy efficiency program for the building, some of them really outdated. Second, it's also a hub of people, intermodality, how to smooth the travel in and out of the city, how it can be, it can facilitate and create decarbonized travels, but also it's a hub of data, the airports, and so we need to think about new tools, air carbon, and how we can optimize operation, but also create new opportunities. And also ourselves, as investors, we are evolving in terms of our approach to the market. We are launching new product that can answer the question of the financeability of this investment. And so we launched the hydrogen fund. We have also made a small investment in Duncan. So we see ourselves also as the habilitator of this development.
Many thanks, Rosario. You made a great conclusion for the panel, but also a wrap-up of all the panels. So we have a good view of the combination needed to scale on this subject and reach the 2050 target. Many thanks for your contribution. I'm letting you going back to your seat and conclude this conference.